Hi. So I'll probably be doing another one later today, obviously, because the later one will be on sums. But right now I'm doing, as I said, sometimes I'll be doing two videos in one day, mainly because I want to talk about other things, not just reading Bible. But basically, this is a thing. Basically, this video, if you haven't read the title of the video, is about, well, I don't know what the title will be. But anyway, it's about the education system. And, I think in Texas, Florida, it is. I don't live in America. I don't know. But this is what I vaguely heard. And I wonder if this is the case in other countries and other places. And I can't be bothered looking at where else this is a thing. But basically, it's illegal to talk about being gay or just queerness in general to kids, which is a problem, a really big problem. It's kind of oh, we're just going to ignore a whole group of people existing, and that's bad because education is important. One, for a functioning democracy, but it's also kind of banning books. Why not don't ban books? Never ban books. Banning books is the worst thing you can fucking do to a child. I know that was a swear. Who cares? I don't care that it's YouTube and they don't like swears. I'm gonna swear anyway. But it's kind of that idea of oh, we're not gonna talk about this, and it's that's actually mildly damaging on multiple levels. And it's one of the reasons representation matters so much, because what it ends up doing is it ends up with a child not realizing they're asexual and accidentally offending basically everyone in their grade to the point where they're actually bullied. Because people think they don't support gay marriage, which, to be fair, at the time, I didn't, but it was more because I couldn't think of an opinion because both sides seemed to be in the wrong, as in, I was in a group of friends where, it was actually really bad. One of the people who was, gender fluid, I think, or trans, I don't quite know, and I don't ever really care to know. I could barely remember their name at the time, and honestly, it doesn't matter, and I don't want to think about them. But they said some really problematic things, sexually problematic things where rape was involved, and it's that is not okay. And it was a lot of vitriol being targeted. This was in grade 9 for me. This was when gay marriage laws were being talked about and being passed, and I was in full support of the laws being passed, but I also didn't know my personal stance on how the church would interact with those laws. But what I also did know was that being gay wasn't the problem. It was the marriage thing, and that was something that I didn't want to touch because there was a lot of problems there. There was a lot of arguing and different theology and stuff, and I didn't know what to think, and I kind of know better now what to think, but I still don't quite want to talk about that because that's not what this is about. It's about the fact that me, as someone who didn't know that being asexual was really a thing or what that entailed, and didn't know that they themselves were asexual, basically thought the whole idea of this was stupid. Mainly because I was why do we care about this when there are larger problems in the world? Some countries still don't have girls in education. This is still a problem to this day. Some places are still starving. People are below the poverty line. There are actually bigger problems in the world that we can fix right now. That isn't do or die. I understand now, as someone who is asexual and realizes, this is actually a thing that's important to other people. People who aren't asexual, this is actually a big deal for them. This is something that's quite important to them. And not allowing them to do that is actually a bigger problem than I realized. But one, as someone who didn't even fully understand what that was, I was this doesn't seem like a big deal, and I don't get why other people are making it a big deal, because we weren't talking about how other people feel, meaning I didn't realize my experiences of what my idea of marriage and not wanting that. I didn't realize that the way I felt about marriage wasn't normal, and wasn't the normal way, and that to most people, marriage is actually a really big deal. To me, it still isn't. But it was kind of that was damaging, because I was then proceeded to be bullied because people thought I didn't support gay marriage because I was a Christian, and I was open about being a Christian. There are other girls at the school who were Christian, don't support gay marriage, and weren't bullied because no one knew that they were Christian. But I was open about it, so I was bullied, and it was this weird thing of if I had known being asexual was a thing, and that that meant different things, and that the way in which, and that as a kid it's and that for other people marriage is actually a really big deal, And like it's not just like, and that sex sells, and that's an actual thing because people are actually appealed by that, and that's an actual thing because it took me a long time to realize that the way in which I viewed all that was objectively different to society. And if I'd known that from a younger age, I might have actually dealt with that situation a lot better because I would have realized that the way people see sex and marriage is different to the way I see sex and marriage. Like, my perception of that is something that I don't want it, and I honestly don't get what the big deal about it is. And that's fine. But I didn't recognize that that was different to the way everyone else was thinking at the time. And meaning if I don't recognize that what I'm doing is the way in which I see the world, the way in which my desire, if I don't realize that my desires are different to other people's, how can I ever empathize with them and realize, oh, they're actually thinking a different thing? Because I just assumed everyone felt that way and thought people were overreacting to something. They weren't overreacting. But it's that kind of thing of like, we need representation, because if I had been told from a young age that this is what this was, and that to some people this is actually really means a lot, and to be asexual means that doesn't mean a lot, and that's different, and that's okay, it would have been a lot better. Like that's just one reason why you need to talk about this. That way you can empathize with other people better, because like I don't feel any of that. I will never feel any of that. But other people do. And that's really important for me to remember. And once I've learned that, I'm like, yes, I support you. And I'm actually like, yeah, that was a great thing. And like, it should have happened years ago. And I kind of know that now. But it was before, I was like, I was kind of like, yeah, this should have happened years ago. But also, like, at the same time, I suppose we weren't focusing on the other things either. So it's like, might as well do this. But it was that kind of thing of like, who cares? which sounds really bad. But honestly, that's the way I was feeling. It also means things like, oh, when you're, that there's also other things where it's like, oh, when I was in prep, I brought my stuffed animals to school. I actually got my stuffed animal here. You can't see my stuffed animal's color because like it's white now. It's like actually white. It's so faded. This is Teddy. He's mine. Yeah, I say he. But he wasn't always. And I don't know when he became a he. But he is. When he was younger, when I was younger, really, and I think if that hadn't happened, he would have been. Maybe would have stayed that way, maybe not. Teddy would have been they. But I didn't actually know this when I was younger. This is a thing that happened when I was younger. Do you know it's a thing that most children call their stuffed animals by the pronouns they prefer? I didn't know this, but I think it is a thing. I don't know. I feel like it's a trend I've kind of noticed. Maybe. This obviously isn't the case with him. I think that is more of a relation to like be God and everything. I think anyway, not going into it, but when I was in prep, we were invited to bring our stuffed animals to school, and and while I was at school, before that point, Teddy didn't have a gender, but I was asked what the gender was, and that shocked me. I was like, I don't know, he's blue and pink, so like, she and her, they use both. Well, I didn't use they because I was like both, because I didn't know they was a thing, and it was kind of like the teacher was like, you have to pick one. And because it couldn't be both. But I was like, but it's a teddy. It's allowed to be both. It can be both. That's the way the world works. Teddy, it's not human. But like, that was hurtful. Because obviously that's not true. But it was like, that's what I was told as a 6-year-old. And I didn't know that was a thing you could use on a singular person. Or my friend, I didn't know that. That was damaging. To the point where when someone introduced that as a thing, they were like, that's not a new concept. And I was like, yes, it is. I've always been told it's only that, and you can only be one or the other. That's what I'd been told. I was ignorant. I hadn't learned anything else, and that's not good. I should have known. I should have been able to know. And I don't want kids to not understand. I don't want kids to have to insist to their teacher that, but it's a teddy, meaning it's allowed to be both. I don't want that to be their things, because deep down they understand that that sentence isn't right, but they don't have the words to explain it. That's why it's so important, because you need to understand the way the world works. You need to understand that you need to be able to be empathetic, because people are beautiful and they're designed that way. And God designs you that way, and you shouldn't ever have to hide it. And you should be given all the tools to understand that, and that you are beautiful no matter what. God made you, God loves you for who you are. It's a sad thing. It's a sad thing. It's one of the reasons conversion therapy, it grates on my nerves that it exists. Because these people are wrong. And they're wrong in such a way that they themselves, they say they're trying to fix people that were never broken. And they say that they're doing God's work, even though the work they're doing is actually the devil. Like, out of the two people in that relationship or insinuation, the person that's actually working with the devil is the one doing the conversion therapy, not the one being put through it, if that makes sense. It's like, okay, you being gay is not the devil's work. That God made you that way. It cannot be the devil's work. But people who try and tell you that being gay is the devil's work, they're doing the devil's work. That's what I'm trying to say. And oftentimes I want them to burn with holy fire, people like that. They deserve to burn with holy fire. And I know that's a wrong thing, because you shouldn't set anyone on fire. It's illegal and technically a sin, and it's arson, and yeah, I don't ever do that. Don't condone violence. Violence is bad, because more than that, I've lived and worked in the church for a long time, and I know being violent to others and being aggressive and being hateful does not get what you want. It won't help you in the long run. I know, like, I remember talking to people and them going, them not understanding the idea of, like, forcing they were like, the church should be forced to marry gay people together, and they don't understand the concept of why that is objectively a bad thing. They don't understand that doesn't help anyone. They don't understand that while objectively that is a good thing, and I agree with that thing, telling people what to do isn't good. Like, and hating on them for something that they've misunderstood isn't good, because you're not going to convince anyone that way. You need to do it through patience and love and kindness, and that's how you'll get people on your side. It's a sad thing people don't truly understand. Like, I've had to work within the church, and I've had to work with people I don't like, and I don't necessarily agree with all their stances on things, but I will work with them forevermore, because they will help me do other greater things. They will help me end poverty. They will help me build hospitals. They'll help me with disaster relief. They'll help me support and build up the church in other ways. And just because we don't agree on everything, we respect each other, and we respect that we don't necessarily agree, and that we'll continue working in the ways that we can agree on, and work towards things like social justice in other ways, and prison ministry, and supporting the poor, because while we don't necessarily agree on everything, we do agree that every human needs dignity and deserves love. Because the more you hate on people who don't agree with gay marriage, the more likely they are to end up revoking and hating on you just for being gay. It kind of sounds weird saying it, but if you respect that they're never going to agree with gay marriage and just move on with your lives, they are more likely to treat you as a human being and not care about the fact that you're gay. Because let's be real, there are tons of people out there who will treat you like a human being, will love you, and not care a single thing about you, but still won't accept gay marriage. Like, they will literally, like, oh yeah, you're gay, who cares? Let's invite you to church. And they won't try and convert you, but they probably also won't support that thing, and that's something that yes, over a relationship maybe might change, and it will be good if it changed because it will be better, but also at the same time, you need to understand trying to change that will breed more resentment and hate than something, because when it comes down to it, if that you love each other for being human, it doesn't matter. And some part of me saying that is like, it's because I don't understand what the big deal about marriage is, and I still don't. And you don't have to be friends with them. I'm just saying there's a difference between being friends with someone and being acquaintances. All I'm saying is put your differences aside and work together for the greater good. All I'm saying is step down from your high horse and admit that you don't know everything. All I'm saying is there are people out there that need our help, and maybe, just maybe, arguing over whether or not gay marriage should be a thing is not where we should be right now. Spiritual abuse happens, sexual abuse happens, domestic abuse happens, but abuse happens. Poverty is real. And we need justice for that. Climate change is real. We need to fix that. And the only way we'll fix that is by working together. And that's something I know we can all agree on. So let's stop focusing on what we disagree on and start focusing on what we do agree on and working together. And maybe through that empathizing and working together, we can understand more fully everyone else. Because this isn't about agreeing with everyone. It's about respecting everyone. It's about understanding everyone. Because you'll never agree with everything. But you'll find if you start looking for what you do agree on, you'll agree with an awful lot. And maybe we should start from there and start working from there. Start working from a place of love and respect and treating other people, as humans who are fragile and made mistakes and are broken, but are trying. Everyone is trying, and if we help that helping hand, hopefully they'll start trying with you. Yeah, that was a lot more deep than I was thinking, but yeah, it's kind of that thing of like, I know it's hard, and I know you don't want to take the first step because they've hurt you for so long, but if you don't take the first steps to end the cycle of violence, who else will? I know it's hard, and I know it's strong, but I'm trying to take those steps. Please come and take those steps with me. Let's end these cycles of violence and destruction and hurt together. Let's start a new age of peace together. Bye. Bye.